I'm Stan Luben, and I'm here tonight to show you how to do some bark carving, and we're going to make some whimsical fairy cottages. Bark, cottonwood bark is something that I picked up off the ground. A cottonwood tree had died, and it was just all laying around on the ground, and all you had to do is go over there and pick it up, and I wound up with a half a pickup load of some big stuff. And at the very end, I'll show you the biggest piece that we had. It was probably 9 foot tall and you know, this wide. And I had to cut it down just to make it usable. So the first thing that I normally do with this is I take a piece of cottonwood bark and I grind down the back. And what I use is this here. It's a Weecher. And I take and grind down the back of it and just make it smooth. Because when you start out, I guess I don't have a piece here, it's kind of got a little crust on it, and so you kind of, it's nicer if it looks good like this. So I use the Weecher on that, and so we'll put that away because we don't really need that anymore. And then the next thing I do is, on some of these, they got a lot of cracks that run the long way. And so they should be glued together first before you even start. Because if you don't, sometimes you know, they'll split off and you'll wind up with a couple pieces. So I use super glue, and super glue I found is kind of got two different types. One is a gel. And so if you got quite a wide crack in there, you might want to take and put the gel in there. And if you got some smaller cracks where you want it to really run in, then use just the regular super glue and let it run down in there. And then I have this here, it's called Extreme Power Accelerator. And you put the glue on there, and then you just take something, dip it in there and just touch it on there, and it'll just kind of flow all over, and it'll set that glue up like right now. And so you're right to work on your piece. So this extreme, or this accelerator, you can buy at any of the hobby shops, right where you find the glue. So now you've got your piece of wood, you've got it, the back of it ground down, you've got it glued, and then you're ready to start. And I like to lay out this bark quite often with the top of it, the points like this in the top, and I like to make the chimney first. I usually start with the chimney and work my way down the piece. So the first thing I do on the chimney is I like to make the chimney little bricks, how you would find a chimney. What we're really making is a whimsical fairy cottage. So it doesn't have to be precise. It can be anything you want it to be. There's no rules for this, carving this. However you want it to look, that's the way you can have it turn out. So I got my trusty Black & Decker here. I've got just one of these little grinding bits on here, and I've taken them. I've got an extra one here because usually you break these things, fairly quick. But I'm going to start by making some bricks in here. So I can go in here about a quarter of an inch down and just go right on across. And so you can see that it goes pretty quick. And on the other side, you do the same thing. They don't have to match up. If they run at an angle, it's whimsical. I mean, so I wouldn't make it too precise. You can get away with quite a bit on this. So I've carved a number of just lines in there, and then to make the bricks out of it, I use this tool because I've got, this is a diamond on here, and it's fairly aggressive, but it's smaller, and so if I use the bigger one on here, sometimes it overlaps, so it doesn't really look like a brick. You kind of want this to look, you know, pretty realistic. So I'll take and go in there and cut that into little bricks. And I quite often make those so that the lines match up. Because if you're laying bricks, a good bricklayer wants those lines, you know, he wants those lines right in a row. So I've just started here on the chimney. Oh, what I forgot to tell you is after I do the back, then I grind down the front with the weecher, with just a coarse bit. And I quite often take the sides off, leave this here kind of rounded, like on a roof, and then sometimes undercut this a little bit. But I kind of leave that rounded so it does look somewhat like a roof or a chimney where it meets there. But you just take and grind those down flat. I take and sometimes leave bark in there sticking out. It's not a problem. It just depends upon the flow of your piece. Like right here was a long flat side, so I just ground the whole thing down and says, you know, I'll figure it out when I get there. This here was a long flat one here too, so I did a long flat, but here it was kind of wavy, so I just left some bark in there, and it turns out that really looks nice, having some bark in there like that. Like this one right here too, I think this one is the bottom, but this could have been a top also. You could have made the chimney out of that, kind of dish that out there, and so that it looks like a roof. And you know, it's really open as to what you do. You're going to figure it out once you make a few of them. You're going to figure out what you really want. So after we do the whole chimney, and I do the sides, and you know, both sides all the way down, put the bricks in there, have the line straight, then you've got a really good start. Once you get that done, you kind of feel like you've accomplished something. So that's a really good place to start. And then next, I go down to the next step, and that is putting the windows in. And so I've drawn out on here. I've drawn out on here some of the windows, and the top window I usually make into a half round window. Now these being whimsical fairy cottages, you kind of got to use your imagination again. On all the windows, I take and grind those in, and quite often I'll use a bit from a rotozip. If you know what that is. The bits from rotozips, you can cut in any direction. So if you use that, you can plunge down in there, get your hole, and then you can use that to enlarge it. You can make it square, you can make it round or whatever. So a rotozip bit is really good, but the only ones I got are short. So this one here, yeah, I could probably make that work, but that's the best way. And in fact, maybe I'll go back to that because that does work better. And then if I don't get through, then I'll put the longer bit in. So I'm gonna cut this one in. Because we drilled all the way through, now we can go to the back side. So there we have our first window. What I like to do is put a little ridge around that window. It kind of makes it set off a little bit. This is a carbide bit, and it works really good in this stuff. This cottonwood bark is really soft stuff. I mean, it's some of the best carving wood you'll ever find. You know, it's even better than you know, your soft woods, because it has really no grain to it. It cuts really easy. You know, it doesn't hold a whole lot of detail, but it's really kind of fun wood to work with. But it is dirty. I like to do mine in the summertime when I can work outside. It really works good. Then make all the mess you want, and the wind just kind of blows away. So this, I'm going to go around here and make a little ridge all the way around this window. Then to keep that from looking like it is ground down, so now you got to take a little bit more off around it. But you can blend that in. You don't have to take the whole thing. There you have kind of a crude window that in that piece. And take this piece, and you can see I've got the chimney on here. On this side of the for the chimney over here, I kind of did a overlapped shingle type thing. And then down here, I got the windows in there. You can see that they all stand out. So once you finish them, they look a little bit more finished than they do here, because here it's really hard to see any detail in it. So the next thing we want to do is show you how to put some outer wall. And I do have a number of things that I do. One is I do overlap siding, and then I put the nail holes in that, the one nail hole. I do a flat board siding where I put 2 nail holes in it. I have block, like you would find stone blocks, maybe, you know, a foot and a half. I carve those into it. And the other thing is I do down in the bottom always, I do maybe rocks, and try to carve rocks in it. Is we'll do the flat board. So we're going to come down maybe ½ inch, and we're just going to go right straight across. And you do that for however much you want. So this would be the flat boards. So to make it really look like the boards, we'll take, again, just one of these carbide bits, and it just goes down to a point. So here we're going to put in the nail holes. Because it's flat siding on there, it would always have 2 nail holes in it. So you put that on the sides. When you're working with cottonwood bark, expect everything and anything. Stuff will crack off, whole sections of it will go flying off, and if you want, you can glue them back on. Normally I don't. I just say, you know, yeah, there's another one right underneath it. Just keep going. Next one I want to do is overlap, like your overlap siding, like your vinyl siding. Of course, back in this day, if you're having a whimsical fairy cottage, they didn't have vinyl siding, but I'm sure they had some sort of siding, some sort of boards that they just overlapped like this. So that's what I like doing. So I'll do that on this next side right here. So again, use it about a 1/2 inch. Normally if I have just the flat siding here, I would do the flat siding on the sides also. And then I would make the lines match up. This one here, I made it just a little bit smaller. This is for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to just go back to this same bit that I was using before, and we're going to make this overlapped. So we'll start at the bottom and we'll just grind the top part of this off. There's my overlap siding. So to make it look a little more convincing, we're going to put a nail in the bottom on each one. If you've ever done wood siding overlapped, you always get that nail on, on the bottom. So we're going to put that one hole. There. So now you have your overlap siding. And you can make different variations of that. Now another one that I like doing is making large blocks. So we'll just continue right on underneath here, and we'll make these square, maybe 1 inch or so square. Then we're going to take and make these into squares. And because a good stonemason never had blocks laying one right on top of the other, we're going to mismatch the stones. So it gives the wall more strength. So there's your stone blocks. Now if you don't get way to the edges good, use a smaller diameter tool and go in there and just kind of hit the corners a little bit. And you can kind of clean that up some. Now the other thing that I really like doing is making stones. And we go back again to a carbide bit. And this one is a 1/8 inch head to it. And I just recently started using this, but it works really nice. So I'm going to put some stones on this here. And I'm going to grind them in there. The stones are going to be random. It's just however it goes. And the stones, again, we're going to try to mismatch where they lay. Kind of make the corners a little bit rounded. But you can see how quick this really goes. When I first started this, making stones was kind of a chore. It took a long time to figure just how to really do it, but now that since I started using this bit, it is so easy. There you have the makings of a start of a stone wall now. So to make it a little more realistic, I have another carbide bit that is just I think it's a 1/4 inch head, and it's kind of rounded. The whole thing is rounded with a round end on it. But I just wanted something to go in and kind of round the stones so the edges look more realistic. Now what you might want to do is take some sandpaper and just kind of sand that off a little bit. But at the end, we'll take this abrasive thing here and go over it, and that really cleans up this stuff nice, because this here will actually eat into this. So you kind of got to be careful using this, because you can do things you might not want to do with it. But it does clean up nice. Now another thing I like putting on mine is I always put a door on it. If you got a little cottage, you got to get into it. So I like putting a door on each of mine, and I always put that down at the bottom. And sometimes I'll put a little walkway, stairs going up to it. So this, I'm going to over the doorway, I like to put a little window. And again, we want this to stand out so that it can be seen once you finish it. It just stands out a little bit. So we'll take down the edges. We'll go right up over the window. So we got our doorway in there. Now every door should have a cross on it. Now let's put a cross on every door. There. Easy as that. Nothing to it. And if you got a door, you should have a doorknob. So for a doorknob, rather than make the doorknob stick out, we're gonna put one on the side with a hole. There. Now we got a doorknob in there. And typically I would make bricks around that door. So you can also put steps in. Yes, on this one here I did put steps in it. It's kind of hard to see on this one, but there are steps going down here in the rocks. And so you can see the door again has got the cross in it. It's got the rocks on the bottom. It has the stone up here. It has square windows, you know, all types of windows. And I just kind of vary that. I don't really care about putting windows in there, but it's something I feel to make it a little more realistic. And we have another one here that has the chimney, nice big chimney. I like big chimneys. They're just fun to do. You know, it only takes a few minutes to do the whole chimney. You make your cuts in there, put your other things in there. Chimneys really go fast. But once you accomplish your chimney, you really feel good about the whole piece, because it's, you know, you got a good start on it. You know, here I've got almost a third of it done already, and I've only worked maybe 30 minutes on it. And then this one had flat boards and stones. Stones I guess I always do on the bottom, and I change out what I put up here. And you can do other types of bark also. This bark, I believe, is probably oak, I'm thinking, but I'm not real sure. But I carved this, and it takes a darker, the stain makes it turn darker. But I got the chimneys up here. I got overlapped siding here, overlap siding. Down here is all brick. You know, here's some brick in here. It turned out, but it did not turn out as good as cottonwood bark. Here's a couple more pieces that I had started, and I got the chimney in there. You can see here's a chimney that's got a big, you know, notch in it right here. That's all fun, you know, because that makes it more whimsical. And then the flat spots got in there. This one here too was solid in the back. A lot of the pieces I have are not solid and require gluing. This one is pretty solid. You can see there's a few cracks in it. Here's a crack, here's a crack, but it was a short crack, and it went all the way through because it's thin bark right there. But you don't really have to glue those because there's enough holding it together so that you don't have to worry about that. But I did like a 3 chimney on this one, and I ground down some of the flat spots, left some of the bark stick out so that it you know, shows a little more of the roughness of it. But it you know, it'll make a nice little wall hanging. And then when I get done, I take this bit and I just bore a hole right in the back to hang it up. So if you take and just kind of hold it up and, like that, it'll tell you pretty much where it's at. To finish it, I like to use Minwax semi-transparent natural. That you just take a brush and you just slop it on there. It'll absorb it, and I usually give it a couple coats, but don't worry about, you know, just slop it on, because it'll just all absorb right in there and look good. And then when I get done with that, then I'll give it a coat of clear coat satin. And when you do that, it gives it that nice red color to it. Now I have one more piece to show you. This piece of bark was just laying underneath the tree. The tree died. Bark all just slid down, and all you had to do is go and pick up the bark. And so this piece was laying there, and so we grabbed it, and it took me several years to figure out how to do this. What do you make with it? So after I cut off about 3 foot of it, I said, now it's workable. And so I got the chimneys up here. I got a chimney over here. And this is all whimsical fairy cottages. And I got a chimney in here, so this is another fairy cottage down here. You know, here's another one over here. It's got all the windows in it. This has got overlap shingles on the roof. You have the flat boards right here with the 2 nail holes in it. You have some overlapped siding here on it. And you go on down, and somewhere in here there's going to be some stones. Yeah, here's some big square stones. And you got doors on some of these. That kind of tells you where they end. This has a little staircase right here out of stone. But I tried to put rocks on the bottom of each one. I guess this one didn't get any rocks because it was so high up in the column. I figured they probably didn't use rocks. It was more wood siding or something then. So the rocks I try to keep down towards the bottom. Okay, thank you. Thank you.